Welcome. So I have an interesting question that kind of came up today, and you know that I teach at a lot of interesting places. And one of the things that kind of came up this morning was creating a substantiative discussion post. What does that actually look like, and how does that actually work? So I'm really glad that question came along, but because this applies so much to a lot of the things that I do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a video to help you, regardless of what school you're in, creating a substantive discussion post, because everybody does it, right? There is simply not a single college, unless you're in someplace like WGU, that doesn't have a requirement for a discussion question every week. This is really a standardized kind of thing where the idea is to get you to interact with your classmates and or answer a question that has to do with the course content, and then just kind of go along with that. And every one of these colleges uses the word substantiative, but you know, that's a hard one to nail down because there's not really a good definition for that word. We think we kind of have a good idea of what it means, but the definition is actually really kind of interesting. So kind of the example that's out there, this is pretty standard. This is what I get about every college. Be sure to post an initial substantiative response by X date and time, and then respond to two or more peers with substantive responses by X time. And a substantial initial post answers the question presented completely and for a thoughtful question pertaining to the topic. Okay, we're open to interpretation now. What does that actually mean? Substantiative peer responses, again, thoughtful question pertaining to topic. So again, it's very vague on what we're actually looking for, right? And I've seen everything go from people writing me a 12-page paper to a one-sentence answer. The things that work, the things that don't work, but there's a method out there, and I actually really kind of like this. So this is Dr. Anthony Pate's method. He uses something called the idea method. And I really like this because it really does help define substantiative for you. So using the idea method, you can identify the principle being learned, whether that's network engineering or biochemistry. This is what we're talking about this week. Then I want to define that principle being studied. What kind of network are we talking about? Are we like talking about quality of service, or are we talking about security? Are we talking about things where we're doing SQL injection? Are we talking about biochemistry? Are we talking about AI? As long as you can define what's actually being studied, you're good to go. And then explore and explain that idea for you, right? So if I really like biochemistry and I want to go into the biochemistry of organic reactive solvents, then I'm going to go and explain that, and that's going to take at least a paragraph, right? So I'm already here at 2 paragraphs. I've identified something, I've defined a thing, and now I'm going to explore a thing, and then I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to apply, or I'm going to advocate for a recommendation. I'm going to state this is a thing, this is something I really like, or this is what I think we should do. And this is actually really good when you're working on a business case or you're working on a business process. You're going to advocate for your recommendation. And that's essentially when you're putting together your discussion question, you're actually learning how to advocate for yourself or for a particular position within an idea space. So it's really kind of neat. Then generally, I'm looking for more 2 paragraphs using the idea method. And I don't get that every week. And that's interesting because I don't get it, and that's okay. I'm looking for a position. I'm looking to see how that position is justified. And you'll see me ask questions back, and I will try to get out of you everything that I want for that idea method as a way to draw out that better response from you. So if you give me 1 or 2 sentences, I'm going to ask you a question like, well, how would I use quality of service to shape bandwidth needs for the future? Or if you give me this SQL injection, 1 equals 1, well, can I use a regular expression, or is there some way to filter out that data so I can drop anything that doesn't meet the data requirements so that 1 equals 1 never hits that static or that dynamic SQL statement. So it gets filtered out. And I will keep this up all week long. So if you've submitted by Thursday night, which is according to our example discussion, if you submitted by then, I will keep on asking you questions Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because that's class is Monday through Sunday, to try to get that response out of you. And if I can get that good response out of you, out of that idea method, then you will get full scores on that discussion question. And again, this will work for any college you ever go to, right? Most of your instructors are going to be keeping on and asking all those questions. So really, honestly, what I'm looking for are 2 or more paragraphs here but I don't want you to go overkill either, right? Don't write me a 12-page paper. Just a couple of paragraphs, really explore your idea. I need more than just 2 or 3 sentences that basically amount to "I agree." And I see that a lot, right? You're in a hurry, you're trying to do your thing, you're just going to jet something out, and it's not going to fit, right? That's great that you agreed with your classmate, but why did you agree with your classmate? What about that classmate's answer made it awesome? Where can your conversation go? And again, a great idea to this when you're working with your classmate is compare and contrast your idea with your classmate's idea. Because in all honesty, with a discussion question, there's a very limited amount of answers here, right? There's only going to be maybe 8 or 9 answers that you can give. Someone's going to agree with you. And that's the good part, because if you can tie your idea to your classmate's idea and come to a consensus, those are the best kinds of answers because everyone is agreeing. So here's a good example. So this is a good example. And again, this is from Dr. Pate. So he's got a couple of paragraphs here, 3 paragraphs, and that going through and discussing that market segmentation for this whole thing. He draws in, he gives you some good examples, he gives you a good APA reference, he gives you some paging. This post is a good definition of how all this stuff is phrased together and where it will go. So again, that target market for the Barbie doll, again, young girls, all the rest of it. So when you're looking at this, you can really get an idea of where we're going to go with that market segment for Barbie dolls. Now, an example of not a good post, and I want to know this because I actually kept the typos in here, right? It's really easy to just typo really quick. And one of the things that I do is I have spell checkers embedded into everything. So, because sometimes my spelling can be very creative and not correct. So again, a bad post, right? You've got an answer. It's the target market is everybody. Well, who is everybody, right? We've substituted one vague answer for another vague answer, right? The text says, okay, where does the text use? The company should, and typos, right? And all the rest of it. So this isn't a good post. This is a couple of sentences, right? And there's really nothing in here that validates anything that's being done or how it should be done or what we're looking for along the way. So this would be a post that I would not grade well. Now, there's some really good things, other things that go along here with that, right? So we're going to define here, for any intents and purposes here, is substantiative means 2 or more paragraphs. All right, that's what we're going to expect from here. Then there's a real dive into this, and I'll go ahead and I'll post the links that go along in here. There's some really good work here at the Writing Center with some really good templates on how to do a really good discussion question. And then there's some other work on how to do discussion questions along the way. So I'll post these 2 links in the classroom as well. But this is like really kind of an important thing. If you leave it to Sunday night or you don't do this, I will try to get that information out of you as long as there is time to do it. If you post it late on Sunday night, I won't have that opportunity, but I'll be looking for that substantiative 2 or more paragraphs of information on how this actually works. And again, most of your instructors are going to be looking for this, and this is basically how this system works when you're going through and you're doing your discussion questions. I get this most of the time, and I'm really happy about that. But again, this is just a good overview of what does a discussion question look like and why do we need one, and what it should actually look like, and then some good examples. So if you do have any questions, do feel free to give me a shout. I am really happy to help you out. And do let me know what you thought of this video. Thank you.